Oh, owie. Ooh, that felt good. Hello, Jacksonites. Pardon the absence. I've just been really busy for the last few weeks. It also didn't help that I had Meadow and Roman's birthday to attend to. So how long has it been since my last video? Three weeks? Yeah. Almost a month. Damn. Hi, honey. There's a turd in that.
That's insane, man. Ew, what the fuck?
That's the intro.
That's unfortunate.
That one's fresh.
Or you just take this one. Because why is there a turd in the goddamn living room? That's freaking gross. What the fuck?
You'll probably need a bigger can than that if you say how much work you're going to do. Flattering. And that is Meadow's debut on my channel, audio-wise, now that we live in this new house. Don't make me do a spit take. Okay, so I know last time I said that I would do a ranking video of more Ultraman content, which that plan is still in motion, but this video was on my mind, and it has been on my mind for the last few months, actually, because the year is 2025 and it is now summertime of 2025. So that means I have been doing videos on this channel for 10 years. Now, I do not believe that I am doing this on the actual 10-year anniversary, like to the month. But to be fair, I'm pretty sure that's in the middle of next month. But I really did not want to wait that long. This is the video that I really wanted to do so that I could get it out of the way. Because there's a lot of stuff in this video today that I've actually been wanting to talk about for a long time. By the way, I don't know if you couldn't tell, but my hair is still slicked back, and now it's actually long enough I can put it in a tiny little ponytail, much to quite a lot of people's chagrin, actually, but such a woman thing to do. But yeah, this is how long my hair is now. I have not had a haircut in over a year. I did my Star Wars video with Jackie Boy. That was the last time I had cut it, and that was over a year ago. And now I have a small collection of scrunchies that Meadow has given to me. So thank you, honey. But obviously there's bits of it that don't like to stay in. So, alrighty. So yes, indeed. This is the 10-year anniversary of my YouTube channel. Again, I think technically it's next month because that is something I'm going to talk about in today's video. But I have been doing videos. Well, specifically, I've been doing videos like this streaming since 2017, but I have been making content on this channel since 2015. There have been some pretty big gaps in the release dates as of late. Let me lower myself just a little bit. There we go. But yeah, consistently, sort of, I have been doing content on this channel for 10 years. So, inspired by a few smaller YouTube channels that I've been watching, in particular, Jerome Weaselberry and Alexander Robinson, I think his name is. Recently, they did their own 10-year retrospective videos on their channel talking about the ups and downs that they've experienced, the videos that they've done, the type of content that they've done. And it just got me really inspired to do something of my own, because 10 years, well, I've been an adult for 10 years. I just recently turned 28 in April. I graduated high school in 2015. I became an adult in 2015, and my YouTube channel began in 2015. So I've just felt really inspired and feeling like taking a trip down memory lane and just going over all of the ups and downs that I've experienced, all the people that I've met in my channel throughout the years, the type of content that I've done, and just, yeah, reminiscing and reflecting on the last 10 years of doing content for YouTube. So hopefully this should be entertaining and informative and somewhat insightful. I want to give a couple disclaimers. I have a rough outline written down here, but this will be mostly unscripted. I'll like look at some plot or like some bullet points here and then just add on willy-nilly by myself. So yeah, this will be mostly unscripted. So there might be a fair bit of ahs and ums as I'm trying to put my thoughts together. I will be telling a few stories that I have never discussed before that might make me look unflattering, to use a lighter term. But it's like something that Trevor Boy once told me, is that, history is made up of both good and bad things. And sometimes it's not comfortable to discuss, but it is important to get everything out in the open, which I do agree with. So without further ado, let us jump into my journey as a YouTuber, 10 years in the making. Before we get into the journey, though, I would like to talk about why I became a YouTuber. Well, okay, so I am aware that, I have 430 something subscribers, and I've accumulated those 430 something subscribers over 10 years. I know I'm if there's a level lower than Z grade, that's me. I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't make money off of YouTube. Of course, I have some burp fuel, by the way, in a giant ass Toy Story cup. So yeah, I am aware that like me talking about my journey as a YouTuber is really nothing special compared to somebody like Mr. Beast or PewDiePie or Jacksepticeye or Markiplier or any of the biggest YouTube channels on the platform. But why I became a YouTuber, well, admittedly, it was because for a long time it was because I would see channels like James Rolfe and Jacksepticeye and Markiplier, and see all these guys following their passion doing online entertainment, and I was like, damn, these guys are like multimillionaires, and they get to live an extremely enviable life. I want some of that, but sadly, I'm not equipped, and nor am I talented enough to reach the levels of success that James Rolfe and Markiplier and PewDiePie have. But so this will actually lead me into I want to talk about my influences that I've had, because one of them, probably the biggest one, was the biggest reason why I wanted to become a YouTuber, and I already mentioned him. That was James Rolfe. So I've been watching James Rolfe since 2007. That was when I started using the internet, and that was when I discovered YouTube. The very first video of James Rolfe's that I ever watched, Run for Your Life, it's top 10 giant movie monsters. Because the biggest reason why I got into using the internet was because I wanted to research Godzilla. I wanted to read about Godzilla movies and look at photos of Godzilla movies online, and scrolling through a bunch of websites and scrolling through anything and everything related to Godzilla. I just so happened to stumble upon, well, it wasn't that video specifically, but the very first YouTube video I ever watched, it was a Godzilla music video. I think it was, it's probably one of the oldest Godzilla YouTube videos that exists on YouTube. It was the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla song, "Go Go Godzilla." It was, because as I've learned recently from Goji Fan 93, actually, is that a lot of the early um, uh, like big, most well-known Godzilla videos on YouTube was just a bunch of music videos for like Disturbed, Pantera, Skillet, um, Linkin Park, all these like hard rock music videos made with Godzilla footage were among the most popular of the early days of Godzilla on the internet, or at least on YouTube, because that was during the dark days of being a Godzilla fan from 2008 to 2013. Damn. But yeah, that the Blue Oyster Cult Godzilla music video was the very first YouTube video I ever watched. So that just opened up an entire massive set of floodgates for me. So I'm like, oh my God, there's this website that has all these videos and all this footage from Godzilla movies that I've never seen before. Holy shit, this is like opening Pandora's box. And then randomly, I just so happened to come across James Rolfe's top 10 favorite giant movie monsters video. And from there, James Rolfe changed my life. Then, of course, through him, I discovered Angry Video Game Nerd. And then I discovered Cinemassacre, the name of his channel and website, along with James Nintendo Nerd. That was his other channel. And then there was also my discovery of Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. The first season of which, History of Horror, which I just ate up like crazy. And then the second season was Godzillathon, which also, I was still obsessed with Godzilla at the time. That I would just rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch James's Godzillathon again and again. Whoop. Excuse me, sorry. Again and again and again. Which drove my mom nuts. So I would definitely say my biggest influence on me as a film reviewer is James Rolfe. So going back to my influences and my like inspiration for becoming a YouTuber is, yeah, the biggest one is James Rolfe. I like discussing movies, obviously, because, all the friends that I have, all I do is talk about movies. I don't like talking about politics. I don't like talking about world affairs. I don't like talking about sports. I don't like really talking about anything except movies and TV shows. That's my passion. I would love to be a filmmaker. I would love to be, maybe I would like to be an actor, but I would just like to uh, have some kind of job in the movie making business because, movies are my life. Aside from Meadow and Roman, movies are my life and movies are my passion. As you can see, I got two giant shelves on either side of me just filled with movies. Um, and this thing right behind me is just filled with tons of movie memorabilia. So, yeah, I love movies. So, yeah, James Rolfe was my biggest is my biggest influence as a YouTuber. He was my introduction, and he was the guy who introduced me to the greater world of cinema. And he was the guy who, not just me, James Rolfe was a huge pioneer in movie reviewing content on YouTube for so many people. Other people that I know, like Shawnee Boy and Jackie Boy, both are big fans of James Rolfe. So he was the guy who really put together a comprehensive list and map of cinema that people could look at as a blueprint for whatever interest in movies that they had so that they could focus on that one thing. Now me, I love movies, so anything and everything that he talked about I delved into at one point. But yeah, he was the guy who introduced the whole world to movies and movies specifically. And he was the greatest explorer of cinema. He was the guy who actually had the balls to go into the deepest, darkest realms of movies in foreign countries, various genres in American cinema that some people may like, some people may not like. So many, many, many people surely have become fans of movies or even became bigger fans of movies because of James Rolfe. I was one of those people. But I also really liked his reviewing style, talking about, some of the special effects when it comes to monster movies or horror movies, talking about acting, talking about script writing, talking about the impact that films have had on pop culture as a whole, talking about personal connections and personal feelings towards um yeah, anything and everything that a lot of YouTubers, even some of the bigger film reviewer YouTubers like Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman, um oh, that's annoying. Yeah, you guys can't do that. One second, guys. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Um where was I? Yeah, Jackie Boy, Shawnee Boy. Yeah, all these various movie reviewers on YouTube surely owe something to James Rolfe. And again, as do I. But I have other YouTubers that I've been watching for a long time that have had influences on me specifically as a YouTuber, especially in the genres that I specifically talk about. Because as people have noticed, maybe, maybe not, the genres that I like to focus on for my channel: action, horror, sci-fi, sort of, um, and monster movies with occasional martial arts movie here or there. But yeah, those are the big four. But the number one biggest, of course, if you haven't noticed, is monster movies. I love Godzilla. I love Ultraman. Gamera, King Kong. Kaiju films are my shit. So there's a circle of YouTubers that I used to watch, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But my second influence that like the second YouTuber who had a big influence on me when it comes to my movie reviewing structure is the channel Toku Time, hosted by Easy Rider or Easy Peterson, whatever his name is. Sadly, I think Toku Time, when was the last time he did a video? I guess it was 2 days ago. Oh, holy shit. Damn, he's lost a lot of weight. But yeah, Toku Time is a tokusatsu reviewer who's been very hit or miss. I don't want to talk about James Roll falling off. I mean, I'm somewhat inclined to agree, but I think James could redeem himself if he made some changes, namely in the people that he surrounds himself with. But yeah, I don't really want to get into that. But yeah, so Toku Time was the guy who actually, because Godzilla's had a pretty big impact on internet content on YouTube pretty much since the beginnings of YouTube. Because surely it's not just me. Many other people like learned of the greater world of Godzilla through all the music videos and all of those early like 2008 2009 fan made Dark Days Godzilla videos. But it was Toku Time that introduced to me that there's other tokusatsu franchises outside Godzilla, like Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, no, not really Gamera. I learned of Gamera through Godzilla, but Toku Time was the first YouTuber that I discovered that would actually talk about and do videos on those various tokusatsu franchises like Ultraman and specifically Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. And it was also from Toku Time that I gained one of my elements for my reviews, and that is pros and cons. Although Toku Time does it a little bit differently. Toku Time, how he reviews, or at least how he did for a long time, he would review movies like he would do a short intro and then do a long plot synopsis for a good chunk of the review. And then at the very end, he would do his pros and cons, like talking about the things he liked, talking about the things he didn't like, occasionally something that he was in the middle on. And then he would give it a letter grade rating, like B plus, A minus, F, D, so on and so forth. But yeah, it was from him that I took the element of pros and cons. But me, I did something different. I talk about talking about pros and cons is the big chunk of my reviews. Talking about the things that I like and finishing off with with talking about things I dislike. Which, side note, I've actually kind of been thinking about changing up the structure of my reviews very slightly, because sadly nowadays the internet is kind of a place of negativity, and talking about movies online, people like to end with things that they don't like about movies or TV shows. So I've kind of been thinking about reviewing, or when I review movies or shows, I want to end the video with things I do like. And especially since, because of another small influence I've had from Eric Harrison from the Death Twitch Horror Review, I tend to think about, or I tend to want to talk about movies or shows that I like and that I'm familiar with. Maybe that's a big reason why I still haven't reviewed Godzilla Singular Point, because I just don't think I'm going to like it. But yeah, I don't really like discussing things that I don't like. Hell, that's a big reason why when I do ranking videos, I go worst to best. I like to end things on a positive note. So I've been thinking about trying to do that for my reviews. But, down in the comments, let me know what you might think about that decision. Should I switch around and start with cons and then end with pros? Let me know. But also another thing that I got from Toku Time, not specifically just Toku Time, lots of movie reviewer channels do this. They talk about plot-related humor, like Brandon Tenold. He's, his whole shtick is that he's a snarky asshole Canadian that like interjects these dumb jokes and puns talking about the movie's plot. I do that too. But Toku Time was the one who also kind of introduced, poking fun at a movie, making jokes about a movie, even if you love it. Brandon Tenold too, especially. Not too long after I discovered Toku Time was also when I discovered Big Jack Films in 2013, when he did his first season of his King Kong reviews, celebrating the 80th anniversary of King Kong. So of course I just ate that whole series up like something wicked, and then I would explore Jackie Boy's channel even further from that. But it wasn't until much later when I met Jackie Boy for the first time, but I'll talk about that later too. But it was also from Jackie Boy that I incorporated another element into my review style, and that is the final rating. Jackie Boy rates his movies from 1 to 10, as do I. That's where I got it from. And by the way, like me saying, taking all these bits and pieces from reviewers and YouTubers that I watched, that's not a way of me saying I'm just copying what they do. Although I do take elements that I like from various other YouTubers, and I take them and I morph them into something that is my own. So I'm not trying to say I copy what everybody else does, for the record. Just want to get that out there. Although this next guy, okay. This next portion of my inspiration of becoming a YouTuber, on my journey of doing YouTube, this is probably the biggest blueprint foundation element for me becoming a YouTuber. And there's a lot to unpack with this part of my story. But as far as reviewing Godzilla movies is concerned, the number one biggest influence on me, in some ways more than James Rolfe, is the YouTuber Zazubar. In 2012, Zazubar released Godzilla Palooza, James Rolfe had done his Godzilla-thon, but he had, the longest video in that series was when he reviewed Godzilla in 1998, and it was barely 7 minutes long. Zazubar did a full-blown, hours-long retrospective. Each episode reviewing each Godzilla movie throughout Godzilla Palooza. What, like the shortest one, not counting American cuts, because he reviewed. He did a month-long marathon of reviewing every Godzilla movie. And any movie that had an American cut, like Godzilla King of the Monsters 1956 and Godzilla 1985 for the Return of Godzilla, he reviewed both of those the same day. So discounting Godzilla 1985, that episode was 18 minutes long. So yeah, outside of that, the shortest episode of Godzilla Palooza, I think, was maybe Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, but it was almost 37 minutes. Now, at the time, back in 2012, I had never experienced anybody doing near hour long, sometimes more than an hour long videos just talking about one singular Godzilla movie. So this kind of blew my mind. And again, I just ate that shit up. I loved how Bill Worcester, that's his name. I loved how Bill reviewed Godzilla movies. And I've watched Godzilla Palooza numerous times since 2012. In 2015, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Gamera, he also did Gamera Palooza. Same thing, just for all 12 Gamera films, which I actually think I prefer that just a little bit more than Godzilla Palooza. Mostly because they're a little more polished, but still love Godzilla Palooza. But yeah, Godzilla Palooza like really was another eye-opening experience, and that was the biggest. Like after seeing Godzilla Palooza, I was like, okay, yeah, I want to review Godzilla movies, but I just did not. I didn't have the means to at 20. I was 15 at the time, so and I had no job, no money, not very supportive parents. I love my parents, but yeah, nah. So I just didn't have a way. So I would just consume all this content from Zazubar. And that's when I discovered that Zazubar was only one piece. Oh yeah, he certainly is. Although I actually haven't watched any of Brandon Tenold's videos in over a year. It's because I'm a little superstitious. Like I feel like every time I go on a big Brandon Tenold marathon, I get sick, so I don't want to tempt the fates. But Cinematic Trash is down here saying Brandon Tenold has been one of the most consistent channels I watched. Yeah, he certainly is. I don't think he ever really has had a big like hiatus from doing content. Or at least when he does, it's when he goes on tour, because I guess he's on a band. But that's only for like a couple weeks. He's never had a months and months long hiatus. I think he had a channel before he started doing Brandon's cult movie reviews that got deleted. But that was back in like 2012, 2013. So that we've been way past that. But yeah, no, he's never changed his style or had any controversies. Well, I think he slightly changed like his focus, because in the early years of Brendan's cult movie reviews, he was doing like full-blown cult movies, like movies that were very niche and pretty obscure to the mainstream public in like the first 2 or maybe 3 years. Although when he started his Gamera-a-thon, that was, I think, his first big step into doing more well-known movies. But nowadays, Brandon still does cult movie reviews, but now he's much more comfortable with just talking about more mainstream cult classic movies, like the Creepshow series, Hammer Frankenstein and Hammer Dracula movies, Godzilla movies. He's even done an Ultraman film. Rip-offs, stuff like that. But so he's expanded his focus and expanded his horizons talking about cult classics, quote unquote cult classics, but he does a lot of other popular movies too, like the Godzilla movies. But anyway, back on track. But yeah, I discovered that Zazubar was one piece of a greater group of Godzilla YouTubers, and some people may remember who these guys were. They were the Sons of Serizawa. Now, this name comes from Zazubar not only did reviews by himself of kaiju films and also Doctor Who, because he was a big Doctor Who fan. But he had a podcast series where he and some of his friends would talk about random jibber jabber bullshit. And the podcast was called The Sons of Serizawa. So there was Bill Wurster, Zazubar, Andres Perez, Kaiju Noir, Adam Noyes from AM Productions, Dylan McCandless, aka Super DM64, David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorzard, and then like that was the big main five, but there was a couple others later on who were added to the circle. There was Patrick Galvin, the unknown 837. Jacob Baker, the Kaiju Maker. Andrew Battaglia, Blue Eyes Productions. And Dylan McKintosh. Well, kind of Dylan McKintosh. So actually, when did that happen? Oh, that's right. Okay. So I'm adding to my list as I'm experiencing these flashbacks. And no, so I'm going to save Dylan for a little later. Yeah, that's true. What Cinemac Trash is down here saying. Style as in his humor, demeanor, editing, presentation. Yeah, that stayed the same pretty much. But his focus of films have branched out significantly, especially in recent years. And he's a big supporter of like boutique labels of like Vinegar Syndrome and Criterion and Scream Factory and so on and so forth. So yeah, the Sons of Serizawa, all of these guys, not all of them actually, but a lot of them had a big influence on me. Like outside Zazubar, the very first video from the rest of the Sons of Serizawa I ever saw was Gorzard and AN Productions' top 15 favorite kaiju movies video. This was released to celebrate the release of Pacific Rim in 2013. At first, it was released in a bunch of like clips, or Adam and Gorzard would talk about, like, number 15 was one video, number 13 was one video, number 10, and so on and so forth. But then later on, I think around 2014 or 2015, or no. Well, no, it was compiled into one long video, but that disappeared because one of Gorzard's channels was taken down. But then I think in 2017, Adam Noyes took that video and uploaded it on his channel, all edited together in one big, huge, long stream. I actually watched that a couple years ago. It still holds up. Big nostalgic piece of my history. Cracking open another thing of burp fuel. So then I want to get back to the Sons of Sarazawa a little later because they have a lot to do with my journey as a YouTuber. The final big influence on my review style is, of course, Trevor Boy in recent years. Specifically, oh wait, hang on. So no, before I get to Trev, Adam Noyes also has had a big influence on me as a reviewer. Specifically, it's because of him that I like to discuss informative production knowledge. But also in recent years, it's from AN Productions that I now have a very unfiltered opinion. Meaning, so this is both a good and bad thing about Mr. Adams. So when I say this, it's not me trying to cast shade. It's not me trying to talk shit. But I'm just simply stating that's actually a big reason why I have such a love-hate relationship with Mr. Adam Noyes from AN Productions is because I like that he's unfiltered. I like that he does not care what other people think about his opinions. I'm that way too. It's because of him that I am that way too. But some of his opinions are just absolutely ridiculous to me. And some of them I just cannot wrap my head around. I know that sounds really petty and fanboyish, but I didn't say I was perfect. And everybody has moments like that where they hear something that's just so outrageously ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah, Trevor Thompson recently in the last 2 or 3 years has had a big influence on me, talking about the script writing process, me wanting to incorporate more writing into my videos, and also some thematic analyses. Trev likes to do that too, and the way that he writes it and the way that he like words it and like mixes in a way of personal feeling as well as factual informative elements. I like that style and I like those elements, so I haven't tried to incorporate more of that into my style as well, like me talking about my issue with the studio meddling for the Predator 2018, Phantasm 2, and most recently Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That's all from Trevor Boy. So yeah, those are all my influences from people. James Rolfe, Toku Time, Zazubar, Jackie Boy, and Productions, and Trevor Boy. All these people have had influences on my reviewing style and the way that I talk about movies and the structure of my reviews. But it wasn't until back in, well, actually, no. So getting into finally talking about the last 10 years, I'm actually going to go back a couple years before that. Ow, that felt good. Through the phases of my journey as a YouTuber, I'm going to go back to high school, my junior year of high school, 2013 and 2014. The very first stepping stone to me becoming a YouTuber was my movie making class that I had in high school. And one of the assignments that year was to make a documentary. Hold up. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I'm just making sure that my video is still going on. Because I still remember what happened to me last week. The fuck? Okay, sorry. Too many distractions. Yeah, one of the assignments in my movie making class in my junior year was a documentary. And I was like, oh shit, you know what? Like, you could kind of say that things like History of Horror, Godzillathon, Monster Madness in general is kind of like a documentary going through the history of horror and movies in general. So I was like, oh damn, like I know exactly what to model my shit after. But I was also still watching Zazubar at this point too. So it was in my movie making class where I created the big precursor to my reviews on YouTube, and it was my Ultraman documentary. This has never seen the light of day, partially because I don't know how to upload it, but I also don't know if I do want to upload it because it's cringy as fuck. But that was actually when I had an editing software that I could use, because we used Mac computers, which were fucking nice. Man, those were nice computers. But those are expensive as fuck. Um, but we used Adobe Premiere, which is a very common editing software for people who do editing of any kind on Mac computers. Um, but yeah, it was on there that I created a 90-minute long documentary going over the history of the Ultraman franchise at the time, which Ultraman Ginga was the, oh my god, this was 10 years ago. Damn. Ultraman Ginga was the newest Ultraman show at the time. Obviously I got an A because I put a lot of work into that. That took me months to make because I had so much history and so many images to acquire. Damn. But yeah, pretty. I still look back on that, and I keep saying, yeah, that pretty much was my like big precursor to doing videos. But my journey did not begin properly, of course, until 2015. So this is when we're going to be talking about the last 10 years of doing videos. So my channel began in the summer of 2015. I had recently rediscovered Jackie Boy's channel. And the big thing that reintroduced me to Jackie Boy's channel, and the big thing that got me into doing videos, was back in 2015. It was the 40th anniversary of Jaws. Fitting that I happened to get Jaws on Blu-ray on its 50th anniversary. Which, no, I have not rewatched it, but I'm going to save this for the 4th of July this year. I have it off. But also, I know this just turned 50 a few days ago this month. But to me, Jaws is, aside from Independence Day, the ultimate 4th of July movie because it takes place on the 4th of July or around the 4th of July. So, yeah. I'm going to save this for watching it on the 4th of July. By the way, I think subconsciously, if you want to go back to my influences, James Rolfe drinking beer while he was the angry video game nerd was kind of an influence on me. Well, it's not just soda, like I have drank other things, but also I get thirsty because I talk a lot during my reviews. But the burping is supposed to be funny. It's not supposed to be offensive or obnoxious or annoying. It's just supposed to be funny, which it's been edited into a pretty good joke. More on that later. Um So yeah, Jackie Boy, to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Jaws, did his Jaws review marathon on his channel. Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3, Jaws the Revenge, and Orca the Killer Whale as a bonus review. And I was so inspired that I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I have a phone stand. I have a table. Let me put my phone right up in front of me and just turn it on and record me talking about movies that I like for 15 minutes. And that's what I did. Those were my first videos that I did on my channel. Anybody who's been with me since 2015, yeah, that was my first that was how I did videos for the first kind of 2 years. Because I took a lot of breaks and hiatuses throughout that just because I was newly graduated and looking for a job, living with my. I had just also moved in with my grandparents. I've talked about this in my Tremors 5 review with Trevor Boy, but in 2015, I graduated high school. But a few months before that, I left my dad's place. I'd actually been kicked out because senior year was a clusterfuck for me. I was really worried about being a super senior. For those who don't know, I guess this is not a very commonly known term, but being a super senior is a senior who doesn't graduate on time. So they do senior year again. Not to throw shade. My dad was a super senior. He had to stay behind an extra half year because he didn't get good grades. And I didn't get great grades either. It was mostly in math. So, but I don't really want to talk about that. But so I left my dad's in 2015. I stayed with my mom for a little while, and then I moved in with my grandparents. And thankfully, it was during the summer, but I still graduated high school in 2015. I have my diploma somewhere. I haven't unpacked all that stuff yet, but yeah, my diploma, I do have it. It's still with me to this day, but it's just buried somewhere. But yeah, it was the summer of 2015. I was free. I was living with my grandparents, and I was starting a new chapter in my life. I'm starting the first chapter of doing YouTube. So the first batch of videos was the Jaws series. And then I reviewed the George Romero Dead series because I had recently seen Diary and Survival of the Dead and gone on another marathon of reviews or of watching all the George Romero Dead series. And then at the time, too, I had just watched all the Paranormal Activity films. So I reviewed that, too. And then for the rest of 2015 and for a lot of 2016, I was just doing random garbage. I reviewed Sinister, which was the very first horror. Well, no, actually, it wasn't. Or maybe no. I think I might have this a little wrong. I don't know. I reviewed Sinister, and then I reviewed, or like I did my top 10 favorite horror movies, which I had Halloween on one of those lists. Like, what the fuck? That's why I'm wearing this Halloween shirt. That's one thing I remember about doing that video is that on my top 10 list, I had the original Halloween on it. The fuck was wrong with me back then? Well, admittedly, actually, though, so at the end of 2016, or at least the second half of 2016, that's when I did my first batch of Godzilla reviews where I would do them in two parts. I would record myself. First part was talking about the plot, and then the second part was pros and cons and rating. And then when I did that, I tried doing the Gamera series, which that was when my phone that I had at the time was starting to die. So I barely finished that series. And then I tried doing I tried doing a top 100 favorite movies video series, which that was very poor. And then I got myself into a little bit of trouble. So, before this, it was also when I did my very first, if anybody still remembers this, Google Hangout was kind of a new thing back in late 2016, early 2017. And that is when I started doing videos with a guy named Dylan McIntosh, aka Hedora the Douchebag. These were my first long form videos done in the style of something like Zazubar, where I wasn't just recording videos on my phone 15 minutes at a time. He tried doing a like kaiju combat podcast style series, and the first episode was Titanosaurus versus Gabara. I was Gabara. No, I was Titanosaurus. Yeah, and I remember that because I won. We decided that if Titanosaurus was to ever, sorry, my face is shiny. It's kind of muggy here today. If Titanosaurus was to ever fight Gabara, actually, I can't remember. I think we determined Titanosaurus would be the winner, but this is a long time ago, so I can't quite remember. That video sadly does not exist anymore because Hedora the Douchebag does not. The channel itself doesn't exist anymore. But me and Dylan McIntosh don't talk anymore. So this will lead me to a story that I have never discussed. One big reason, too, that I also wanted to do this video is at the tail end of 2023, Adam Noyes did a long stream on his channel discussing and reacting to his time on the Sons of Sarazawa podcast. So again, to reiterate, Zazubar had a podcast series called The Sons of Sarazawa, where he, Kaiju Noir, and Productions, and David Joshua Hernandez, Gorzard, and sometimes Dylan McCandless would do these podcast videos just talking about random bullshit. And I never watched even after in like 2016 and 2017, I never watched any of the podcast videos. Bill had another one, Demons from Outer Space, where it was specifically him and Super DM64. I guess those two clicked up the tightest amongst that group. Like Adam and Andres Perez bonded pretty good, and Bill and Dylan, that was his name, Dylan McCandless, Super DM64, were pretty good friends. Don't you dare set off those alarms again. So yeah, the video that Adam was reacting to at the end of 2023 was a omnibus video. Really? You're stoned.
No.
I could hear the bullshit in your voice. Tripping balls. It makes no sense. Then again, tripping balls doesn't make any sense either. Anyway, it was a compilation video of like the first year and a half, maybe 2 years of the Sons of Sarazawa podcast, edited into like a 2-hour video. And Adam reacted to the whole thing and was talking about the reason why he was only involved in, so the Sons of Serizawa went on for about 4 years, and Adam was only involved for the first year and a half or so. It's because he was fired, because he had a falling out with Bill, specifically Bill, for reasons. Adam has never really disclosed why he and Bill had such a massive falling out. Bill, unfortunately, has not, also was pretty tight-lipped about it for a while, but Bill hasn't done videos since when was the last time he did videos? Oop. Excuse me. Are they actually? The last video that Zazubar ever did. What? Oh my god. Why does he look like my brother? Was February 5th, 2019. God damn. And ever since from then, Bill has been silent. But so this falling out happened, I believe, it was around tail half of 2014, I think, maybe early 2015. But yeah, Bill and Adam had some kind of huge falling out that neither have been willing to reveal why they had a falling out. Adam made some allusions in his video at the end of 2023, like I guess some words were spoken and some comments were made, and they just had a huge spat and a big falling out, and Bill just said, "I want nothing to do with you from now on. Bye-bye." Adam's words. But yeah, it was because of that, and the reason why he decided to talk about that then is because it had been 10 years. 2023 was the 10-year anniversary of the beginning of the Sons of Serizawa. And, it just got me thinking that, a lot has happened to me since then, and since 2015. But specifically for this story, I've never discussed this, really. I've never made hardly any allusions to this occurrence. I mean, if some people are still around since this occurred, they know about it. But I've never, because, admittedly, a big reason, sorry, this is rambling. A big reason why I don't really like to discuss current personal things that have happened to me on my channel is like sometimes that could be used against you. Look at the whole James Gunn situation when he got fired from Guardians 3 because of some jokes that he made on the internet 10 years prior. Those got him fired, and a whole bunch of people made a huge stink about it. So I think a lot of people have learned from that whole fiasco that, like, nowadays you really got to be careful what you say on the internet. So me telling this story, I am not casting shade. I'm not talking shit. I'm not trying to stir up any drama. I'm not trying to cause problems, because like Trev said, when you talk about history, sometimes there's some unflattering things that you need to bring to light. So this story probably will make me look not the greatest, but I've tried to get over this, and I've tried to come to terms with what happened. but this is my interpretation of the event, or not interpretation, but like this is my side of what happened. So here we go. The number one member, I tried to reach out to Bill Wurster from Zanzibar just to talk to him, just to try to get to know him and like tell him like, hey, I'm a big fan. I really like your content. I would like to talk to you more about Godzilla movies, Gamera, Kong, so on and so forth. Which I did for a little while, but Bill wasn't very responsive. I think because he had his own stuff that he was going through in real life. But the number one member of the Sons of Serizawa that I actually like got to know was Andres Perez of Kaiju Noir. Now, aside from Adam Noyes from AM Productions, Kaiju Noir is the only member of the Sons of Serizawa that actually still does content. What? Dylan McCandless, Super DM64, hasn't done anything in like 10 years. I don't think his channel exists anymore, actually. I never really was a fan. Jacob Baker, the Kaiju Maker, I don't think he does videos anymore. Andrew Battaglia, he doesn't do videos anymore. Patrick Galvin, he doesn't do videos anymore. David Joshua Hernandez, I mean, he kind of does content, but like Andres Perez, he's very sporadic with his upload schedule, as is Kaiju Noir. He's very, very sporadic with his upload schedule. But the only one who still consistently does content is AM Productions. But back in 2015, 2016, I reached out to Andres because I had discovered his channel and he was reviewing kaiju movies and so on and so forth. So I reached out to him and I discovered that Andres is a fan of Ultraman. This was new to me because I had never met any Ultraman fan on YouTube whatsoever. I was a lonely Ultraman fan for a long time. So at the time, too, I was really into Mazinger Z and Super Robot shows, which Andres is also a big fan of. So I was like, oh, shit, I think I just met my best friend. And for a while, me and Andres, I thought, were really good friends. So, yeah, I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm a big fan of your channel. I just now discovered you like Ultraman and you like Super Robot shows and Kamen Rider, so on and so forth. So, I've been a big fan of this stuff for a long time too. So it's nice to meet somebody who also is a fan of these. And we got to talking, and I thought that he and I had a decent friendship going on. So I want to preface this by saying, like I've said before, at the end of 2024, when I make friends with somebody, this will sound weird, I fall for them hard. Like if I'm really jiving with somebody and I really feel like I have a good connection with somebody, I go all in. And I admit that it probably is pretty clingy and annoying at times. But like with Andres, I would tell him, or I would ask him, like, I'm not annoying you, am I? I'm not trying to, be annoying or be clingy or be a pain in the ass. And if I ever do, or if I ever am, I would like you to please tell me so that I could stop, or at least like back off and give you some space for a while. But Andres would tell me, like, no, you're fine, dude. If he ever was busy, he would like say, "Hey, I'm busy. Let's talk later." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I would reach out later. But so in October of 2015, I've mentioned this before. My grandmother had a stroke that almost killed her. She was wiped out for she collapsed. She had the stroke, vomited all over herself at my grandparents' lake house a week before Halloween. and she was flown to the ICU center in Seattle, Washington. One side of her body was paralyzed. We all thought she was going to die. And the whole family was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. I thought I was going to lose my grandma. So, and my grandfather, whom I was living with for a while all by myself, he was not taking it well. So which was understandable. He was worried about losing his wife of over 50 years. So I understood it, but Gramps would still kind of lash out at me. Didn't help that I was broke and jobless and admittedly kind of a leech at the time. But there were some weeks, entire weeks even, where talking to Andres, because he's really close to his family too, or at least was at the time, he would help me through it. He would just like, I would say, hey, I'm just not doing too good. Would you mind if we chatted for a little while? And he was like, yeah, sure. And he would help me through my lowest points when grandma was in the nursing home recovering from her stroke. So yeah, Andres really helped me through a pretty hard time. My grandma was in a nursing home for 4 months after, I think 4 months or so. It was definitely after Christmas when she finally came home. But during that time, like there was entire weeks where the highlight of my week was just talking to Andres. So I grew really attached to Andres as a result. But at the beginning of 2016, at the beginning of 2016, I think it was around February or maybe early March, Andres got his dream job of becoming an English teacher in Japan. So he announced it on his Facebook feed that he was moving to Japan. And I didn't like that because I felt like I was losing my support system. And I told him, like, how are we going to talk if you're moving to Japan? Because there's a 16-hour difference between here and Japan. And me saying this is not, again, I'm not trying to shed light or like throw shade or talk shit or start up any drama, but all Andres said in response was, well, I guess you'll have to figure it out. And I didn't like that. Didn't sit well with me. It came off very, very passive aggressive, which upset me. So I made a big stink about it in a Facebook group that I was a part of, a Toku Legion, whining about Andres moving and me not being able to talk to him anymore. Which pissed off a lot of people. Pissed off Bill Wurster. Pissed off Adam Noyes. That's a big reason why probably me and Bill don't talk anymore. Well, also Bill just disappearing off the internet. And kind of ostracized me and alienated me away from the Godzilla fan base for a while. And is also a reason why I lost Dylan McIntosh, because he and I were also pretty tight for a while. But after this happened, he severed ties with me and we never did any more videos after that. And yeah. A couple weeks later after this happened, I reached out to Andres and I tried to apologize, which he accepted, but he's blocked me on Facebook ever since. And I've made a couple attempts to try to reach out to see if he'd be willing to talk again, but he's made it very clear he wants nothing to do with me. So, yeah. But admittedly, too, a big reason why I made that stink is because I found out, I think from Justin Tang, of all people, that Andres actually was talking a little bit of shit about me, saying I was clingy, I was annoying, and pretty much the only reason that he talked to me was to shut me up to get me to leave him alone, or something along those lines. And that didn't sit well with me either, because as I stated, I tried to like tell him, hey, if I ever annoy you, or if I'm ever trying to talk to you too much, please tell me and I will give you some space. But he never did. So that just kind of pissed me off. Didn't sit well with me at all. So I reacted the way that I did. I lost that friend group, and yeah, it kind of hurt me for a while. So at the beginning of 2017, I was still trying to hang on to those last remnants of connections to the Sons of Sarazawa, because at this point, really the only two that are still doing content is Andres and Adam. But it was in 2017 when I first started doing videos with Justin Tang. First video he and I ever did was a discussion on the history of King Ghidorah, like the appearances of King Ghidorah throughout the Godzilla franchise. And then after that, we did our top 15 favorite monster movies in the style of that video that Gorzard and AM Productions did, which that was kind of fun. Then our top 15 least favorite monster movies, our top 20 favorite giant monsters, and a couple random videos like talking about Baragon randomly, and doing a couple audio commentaries for Gorath. No, not Gorath. What was it? Oh, Atragon, King Kong. Half Human, and Varan the Unbelievable. So Justin was my one kind of tenuous connection to the Sons of Zarazawa that I was still really trying to hang on to for a while. But then after that, me just being ostracized away from the Godzilla community, I started temporarily exploring other videos. So this is when I did my original Alien review series, my Undisputed series, and of course in 2017 was when I started doing streaming videos, when you could, I don't know if you still, well, I mean, actually you can obviously still do this because I just did it. You could do live stream videos from your phone through the YouTube app. But yeah, I got a new phone, and then I got a laptop, which I hadn't had at the time. So I really started doing videos through that. But my first big hit, surprisingly, was my review of the first season of Lost Tapes, which, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, my Lost Tapes season 1 review 7 years ago is the oldest existing video that I have on my channel. Obviously, in my OG Godzilla 2-part videos don't exist anymore. Anything before this point that I did doesn't exist anymore, except in my head. Yeah, then after that, I did the Undisputed series, which surprisingly got a lot of views. And then I dipped my toe back into the Godzilla community by doing Latitude Zero. Who the fuck is that? Then I did my Resident Evil review series, spurred on by my review of Cooties. And then after that, so my 2017, no, it was 2018, excuse me. The beginning of 2018 was was another new phase in my channel. And this is what I call the as far as views are concerned, the view channel peak of my entire channel. Because at the time, I wasn't really on friendly terms with Adam Noyes himself, but I was a member of his Facebook group, Geeks for Geeks. And at the time, too, in 2015, Adam did his Ishiro Hondathon. This was also now I had known of the other kaiju films that Toho had put out, like Varan, Mothra, the Mysterians, so on and so forth, War of the Gargantuas, Frankenstein versus Baragon. I had known of these movies, but I had never seen a dedicated review series to all of those films before Adam Noyes' Ishiro Hondathon, which, by the way, 10-year anniversary of that series this summer and this year. I have to give that a rewatch pretty soon. Yeah, I watched that series, ate it up as it came out, loved it, still do. But I had just rewatched all of those episodes at the end of 2017. So at the beginning of 2018, I decided to do my Hondathon. Admittedly, yes, it was my version of Adam Noyes' Ishiro Hondathon, but it was through my Hondathon that I met Pierce, back then known as Movie Buff Productions. And then after that, I met Daniel Wickwire from Kaiju Movie Review. I don't think he does videos anymore either. But my very first video with Jackie Boy was my original review of King Kong Escapes, episode 4 of my Hondathon. Which that was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was my first video with Jackie Boy. And also, War of the Gargantuas, as part of my Hondathon, was the first time I ever did a video with Ryan Boy, back then known as Kaiju Psycho Films, or KPF. And then after that, I did my own 85th anniversary retrospective of King Kong, where I reviewed King Kong 33, Son of Kong, Kong 76, King Kong Lives. And to this day, I had the highest viewed video of my entire channel, my King Kong 2005 and Kong Skull Island review, which still has 9.3 thousand views. For my channel, that's huge. But the reason why all these videos were getting so viewed is I had connections to Jackie Boy, because he had started sharing me on his network of friends. But also, I would share these videos to AN Productions, and people were watching them. So then after that, I finished up my Hondathon. And then I did my Sinister re-review, then Lethal Weapon, then some random reviews here or there. But that's when I finally decided to buckle down and say, fuck it. And I did my first re-review series of the Godzilla franchise. And this truly, I think, it wasn't the absolute peak, but this is when I was consistently getting hundreds of views for each video. Hell, the highest of these, I think, is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. Or actually, no. No, never mind. It was, aside from my Godzilla 1998 20th anniversary re-review with Jackie Boy, it was my Godzilla versus Destroya review. Yeah, and then I did a couple of those episodes with Justin Tang. Then after that, I reviewed Jackie Boy's King Kong movie. Oh my God, that movie's going to be 10 years old next year as well. Maybe that's when King Kong will enter the public domain. Then I did my top 15 favorite martial arts movies with the Unigamer 661. Now he just goes by Bakersfield Self Protection and Self Preservation. I think that's what he calls it. Jeff Welch's channel. Then after that, I did. Oh, it was also during my Godzilla review series that I did my very first video with Shawnee Boy. Godzilla versus Megalon was the first video I ever did with good old Shawnee Boy. Then he and I did King Ghidorah, then Mothra 92, then Space Godzilla, and then the the whole he and I did the entire Millennium series in one day. And that's how I finished up the Godzilla series, except for one, but I'll talk about that later. Yeah, then after that, I did the Gamera series, which was okay. I did most of those with KPF, actually. Although I did one video with Cinematic Trash, as he's going by it now at that point. Then I did the first two of the Heisei trilogy with Shawnee Boy. I did the last two by myself. And then Shawnee Boy and I did top 12 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. And then I reviewed the Halloween series with Jeff and Jackie Boy for and Shawnee Boy for one episode. Then I did my original Jurassic Park series review. And then after that, for a lot of 2018, I just kind of meandered for a while, for like the second half of it. Because then I also did my original Tremors review series. That doesn't exist anymore. And then at the end of 2018, I was doing a lot of current movie reviews. Like then I reviewed the Predator 2018, the Meg, Halloween 2018. And then before I did my Godzilla re-review series, I wrote this down here. I tried to do my first superhero binge, where I wanted to review every single superhero movie that I owned at the time, but I got burned out on that really quick because I just got stuck in this endless fucking marathon of shitty Batman movies, like Batman Year One. Well, it started strong because then me and Shawnee Boy did Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, and I think we also did Batman or not Man of Steel. I remember that one being pretty solid. Then Jackie Boy and I tried to do Suicide Squad, but that video was so glitchy it was almost unwatchable. But yeah, that series I cut short because I was so burned out doing all those Batman movies. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. That was my first big batch of superhero burnout. And then I delved back into Godzilla. Let me keep this back on. Sorry. But and then after that too, yeah, I finished up the Godzilla series. I finished up all that kaiju stuff. I did Tremors. I did Jurassic Park. I did um um some new reviews of new movies at the time. But then October of 2018 was when I met the love of my life, Meadow. And yeah, the rest is history from there. I had her on my videos a couple times. I actually still have a privatized video of her and I doing Bernie Bott's Every Flavored Beans video on my channel. It wasn't very long, but I just keep that for sentimental value. Then I try. Oh no, I didn't try. I got back into kaiju stuff because then I reviewed the Attack on Titan duology. I did a double feature of the Pacific Rim movies because Pacific Rim Uprising had just come out on DVD. And then I reviewed The X from Outer Space. And then because Meadow had Netflix, I was able to watch and review, much to my chagrin, the Netflix Godzilla trilogy. I really don't want to rewatch those movies again. But then I had another brief peek in kaiju media when I did my first review of Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. This was fresh out of me and Meadow seeing it in theaters. So that was a fun video. And then I had another brief interest in Godzilla, or not really interest, but brief Godzilla phase where I ranked the Godzilla franchise, and then I ranked all Godzilla, Kong, and Toho monster movies in one big long list, which I plan on doing that again sometime in the future. I finally hit 200 subscribers at the beginning, I believe, of 2019. Yeah. Oh, no, it was at the beginning. July 3rd, 2019 was when I hit 200 subs. I did the last video that I did with Jackie Boy for a good long while was my top 15 favorite sequels with Big Jack Films, which I think I might give that video another shot sometime soon. And then really after that, I just kind of meandered for a while until I had my first burnout and I had my first real interruption by life, which was a bitch. At the end of, or the second half of 2019, I lost my job at Papa Murphy's, which I'd been working for 3 years. It was my fault. But I had not very much luck finding other work. I worked at Subway, like I talked about this at the end of 2020. I worked at Subway for a little while, and then I worked at the Pacific Landscaping Company, which I occasionally still have nightmares over to this very day. So that was a rough period of time for me. But I had to quit that job. It was just sucking me dry, and I was miserable. Again, I was having nightmares about that job. So I had to quit that. So then me and Meadow, we were both broke and jobless and pretty unhappy. My grandparents were getting really sick of us. And there was literally no opportunities to find another job nearby living with my grandparents. So me and Meadow made the decision to move into her parents', which on one hand did save us because it was living there that I got the job that I still have to this day. But that was when me and Meadow had some really rough patches. I've talked about our abortion before, which wasn't a good time for either of us. But then we moved into our old 71 apartment, and it was us moving in there that I was able to come back and start doing videos again. 8 months, I think, was how long the hiatus was. The first little video that I did doesn't exist anymore because it was like 15, 18 minutes long. But the Q&A comeback video, as I call it, was June 23rd, 2020. Oh, shit. 3 days ago was the 5th anniversary of me, of like the current phase of my YouTube channel. Shit. But then after that, I call it a slow return and growing pains. Because when we first moved into that apartment, our internet connection was really bad. Probably like what's going on with us currently here. So I did my original review of the RoboCop trilogy with Shawnee Boy for the first one. And that video is damn near unwatchable to me because it's so glitchy and so annoying to watch. But then I did my first, this video doesn't exist anymore. I did my first video with Trevor Boy reviewing Terminator Salvation. But I deleted that video because it was absolutely unwatchable. It was so glitchy and so pixelated, you just could not watch it. And you couldn't even listen to it because it was either my connection or Trevor's connection that we had. But Trev's call kept getting dropped like 7 or 8 times. Sorry, my nose itches. Over the course of that video, and it was really annoying, stopping and going, stopping and going, stopping and going. I deleted it. So I can't watch this, can't listen to it. It's terrible, dude. I'm sorry. It's just so bad. But I guess Trev is still kind of salty about that to this day. And then me and Trev reviewed the rest of the Terminator films, Genesis, which was a fun video, and Terminator Dark Fate, which was the prelude to what I call the first new beginning, or not the first, but a new beginning for the channel. Then after that, I reviewed season 3 of Lost Tapes. I think I need to do a redo of Lost Tapes. And then he and I did all the Phantasm, me and Trev did all the Phantasm films. That was a fun little series. Although in hindsight, there's a series that I want to do in future called Franchise Retrospective videos, where I talk about a smaller franchise that, I have a fair bit to say about the whole thing, but not the individual movies. In hindsight, the Phantasm series should have been that. Because me and Trev really did not need to discuss each individual Phantasm film. At least not the way that we review them. But anyway, so then September 29th of 2020 was when me and Trev did our John Carpenter's The Thing review. And I consider that to be a true new beginning for my channel. That was when I really started embracing long form content, like videos that were over an hour long and videos where me and my guest were just bouncing off each other and jiving and working like clockwork together perfectly and smoothly. And that kind of dynamic I've really tried to embrace and make enjoyable and entertaining. Because admittedly, probably the biggest viewer of my channel is myself. So, if I enjoy the content that I do, surely other people will as well. So, I like that. And it's because of Trev that I've tried to match that new level of quality that I think was set by our John Carpenter's The Thing review. So I have Trevor Boy to thank for that. But then it was right after that too, reviewing the 2011 Thing prequel, that I started up Super Kaiju Binge. Oh dear. Hold on. I need to get up for just one quick second for this story. And actually, you know what, too? Fuck it. I need a snack. Ooh, owie. Little Caesars, or Little Squeezers, as Meadow calls it. Hang on one second, guys. This will be your opportunity to go to the bathroom. And to quote, Katina eats kilos. I like food with my sauce. Okay, so my second can of burp fuel. I want to eat another one, but I just need one. So because of this new confidence and this new style that I had discovered and created with Trevor Boy, and also my desire to fully embrace the way that I like to talk about movies truly and sever any ties or sever any what's the word? Sever any desires to be a people pleaser. That was when that was one of the biggest reasons why I decided to begin Super Kaiju Binge, because so I am aware that Super Kaiju, what the fuck? Holy shit. I am just now learning this. I am just now realizing this. King Kong 05 and Kong Skull Island from 2017 has been dethroned. My review of them with Trevor Boy, the 4th episode of Super Kaiju Binge, is now my most viewed video on my channel. Holy 10,270 views. Why? With 51 likes. This is news to me. I did not know that. Holy shit. I gotta share this to Trev real quick. By the way, me and Trev have started talking again. Hold on one second, guys. My mind has been blown. Like that joke from Tim and Eric's show, just that's me right now. I may have to watch this video later on. And maybe rewatch them. I haven't watched it since I did this video. That movie's turning 70 this year too. Or it turned 70. Damn. That is so whack to me. But that's cool though. Maybe it's because it's getting a remake sometime either next year or the year after. That's insane to me. So anyway, in my original, well, not original, but in my second string of Godzilla videos, I was trying to appease the Godzilla fan base because I was afraid of being ostracized again, while also still actively going against the grain just to be a troll, which I don't do that anymore. As I talked about when I reviewed Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah last year. But that was a big reason why I wanted to do Super Kaiju Binge. I wanted to fully embrace, this is my pure, unadulterated, unfiltered opinion on these movies. So that's why, I'm not a big fan of King Kong 33. Not a big fan of The Beast in 20,000 Fathoms. Not the biggest fan of Gojira, I'm sorry to say. I love Godzilla Raids Again. Not a big fan of Gorgo. Not a huge fan of Mothra. So on and so forth. So Super Kaiju Binge started, and it was enjoyable for a while, but then I decided to take a break. I did my ranking the George Romero Dead series and its remakes, which again I think I might do a redo of that. Briefly jump back into Super Kaiju Binge. Then I did the ranking the Friday the 13th series with Unigamer 661 when I think this was one of the last few months before that channel got deleted. I ranked the Saw series on Thanksgiving of all days, I think. Which that's a series that I think would be good for my retrospective series. Then I jumped back briefly into Super Kaiju Binge. And then I hit 300 subscribers at the end of, was it 2020? Yeah, December 23rd, 2020 was when I did my 300 subscriber end of the year Q&A video. And then that's when also right after that, I began my tradition of doing my year-end review videos, talking about my plans for the next year. And then I did my Tremors re-review series with Trevor Boy. So then this was the beginning of 2021. Before we get into that, there's another story that I want to talk about. I have never really alluded to this before, but Justin Tang has not been a part of this channel since late 2020. This wasn't long after Meadow got pregnant. Again, not trying to cast shade, not trying to cause trouble, not trying to stir up drama. Just simply talking about things that have happened and how I reacted and everybody else reacted to these occurrences. So I'm trying somewhat to be indifferent. But yeah, I severed ties with Justin Tang at the tail end of either 2020 or the very beginning of 2021 when I started Super Kaiju Binge around that time. Justin wanted to be a part of Super Kaiju Binge, but I kind of just subtly told him, nah, man. Because admittedly, I had lost interest in doing videos with Justin back in 2018. Like the last video that he and I did, I think it was when we ranked all of Ishiro Honda's kaiju and sci-fi films. Which in hindsight, I was really struggling to get through that video. Because the thing with Justin is, like, for a while it was okay that I was talking to him because he was my last tenuous connection to the Sons of Serizawa. But as the Sons of Serizawa died out, and as I realized that I didn't want to associate myself anymore with the Sons of Serizawa, my interest in doing videos with Justin really started to drop. And my opinion on the Sons of Serizawa started to also really sour. So I had met Jackie Boy, Shawnee Boy, Ryan Boy, and Pierce. So I found this new group of friends that I did get along with, and I shared a lot of opinions and commonalities and interests in. And Justin just didn't really fit. This sounds really bad because I actually don't like these people, but Justin just didn't jive with the rest of us. And it didn't help that Justin did not want to broaden his horizons. Like, I'd already told him, I've already done a whole bunch of kaiju content for Godzilla, Gamera, and Kong. Now, I want to try to branch out and do other things like Ultraman, Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, stuff like that, which, funny, I still haven't. Not really, but like the desire and attempt was there, but Justin was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want to just stay in this rut and just keep talking about the same things over and over again. But I was like, just not having it. Just wasn't feeling it, wasn't interested. So I just started to slowly pull myself away from Justin, which may not have been the most mature thing to do, and it may not have been the best thing to do, and not the best way to handle somebody that you don't want to talk to anymore. But I just didn't really know what else to do, admittedly. But the straw that broke the camel's back. How the hell do I word this in a professional way? The straw that broke the camel's back was randomly. So I have a Facebook Messenger group that I call Kaiju Squad, that me, Jackie Boy, Ryan Boy, Shawnee Boy, and Trevor Boy at the time were attached to, and Justin I threw in just because. But randomly, Justin sent us a frantic, desperate, crazy message saying he filmed a video of him doing very NSFW things and sent it to a bot, and it was trying to blackmail him for money. And he was begging us for us to help him in some way. And again, keep in mind, Meadow had just gotten pregnant, so I'm in dad parent mode, get ready for baby mode already. So I was just like, wow. I really don't want to talk to you anymore if that's the kind of shit that you think is okay. So I unfriended Justin and I blocked him. And I told the guys what, like everybody else in the group chat had pretty much the same reaction. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And all of us kind of did the same thing. Like Shawnee Boy tried to, like in some kind of way, help him, as did Jackie Boy. I guess he and Jackie Boy had some kind of huge falling out that was pretty public, but I didn't know of it because when that happened, I just wasn't talking to Justin anymore. So yeah, I just severed all ties with Justin because I was so disgusted and so appalled by his actions. I was just like, nah, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Again, may not have been the best way to handle things. Again, I just didn't know what else to do at the time. And it's not like I was an asshole about it or anything. But Justin did not handle that rejection well. He went all over the internet to every Facebook group that he was a part of, complaining about us abandoning him in his time of need and gaslighting him, and Trevor Boy sucking my dick, and us just being all a bunch of selfish, gaslighting, greedy assholes that don't give a shit about him. And Justin reached out to a bunch of people to ask them to convince me to start talking to Justin again. One of which was my own brother. Because at the time, me and my brother were working the same job, so he and I would go out and have lunch together. And then randomly, he just tells me, "Do you know Justin Tang?" You're kidding. This had been like the fourth person. Oh, Shawnee Boy is here. Hey, I'm talking about the Justin Tang fiasco. Remember that? So, yeah, my brother had been like the fourth person that has asked me, like, do you know Justin Tang? So I told him the whole story. And every other person beforehand that had reached out to me saying, hey, could you possibly talk to Justin again? I said no. And I told them what really happened. And everybody was like, oh, okay. I'm sorry for bothering you. Message received. Have a nice day. Literally, like 5 or 6 people, including my brother, tried talking to me about Justin. I told them all what happened, and they were just like, wow, okay, never mind. Sorry for bothering you. So, yeah, that happened. Again, I'm not trying to, um, I'm not trying to talk shit about Justin. I'm not trying to throw shade on him. I'm not trying to expose him for, it's a really bad choice of words. I'm not trying to talk shit or stir up any drama. I'm just simply talking about stuff that's happened. There's a reason why I really did not talk about this. You know, I kind of like with what Adam said about his Godzilla X Kong figures right here. Kind of like what Adam said in his video. I feel like enough time has passed that I can finally talk about this and just get it out in the air. So, yeah, that happened between me and Justin. So that's why Justin's no longer on the channel. I was so appalled that if you go back into my pre-2020 videos, every video that I did with Justin doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, that happened. So then getting into 2021, this is what I call, now 2018 was the peak for views on my channel, not counting them review, but I call 2020 my first channel peak of like quality content, where it was mostly because of Trevor, like the dynamic that I had with Trevor talking about Tremors, and then jumping back into Super Kaiju Binge after we finished up Tremors. He and I did a couple episodes of Super Kaiju Binge. We did episode 17, Sea Monster and Son of Godzilla. We did King Kong Escapes. By the way, the American release of King Kong Escapes was a few days ago. The 50th anniversary of the American release of King Kong Escapes. He and I did Destroy All Monsters, War of the Gargantuas. Shawnee Boy and I did Godzilla's Revenge, which is not the greatest Godzilla movie ever made. Come on, don't even lie, Shawnee Boy. Yeah, 2018 was when the group was formed, definitely, without a doubt. Great year. And then the final video that final Super Kaiju Bench episode that me and Trevor Boy did was Varan the Unbelievable. And then after that, I had a very brief return to doing superhero videos. I did the top 20 favorite superhero films video, which I think is kind of outdated. I might give that an update in the coming months. And then me and Shawnee Boy did Commando, which my sister-in-law's dad died halfway through. Like, you could watch me find out that happened. Literally halfway through. That's when I found out that happened. Because that's when it did happen. So, yeah, there's that. No, Godzilla's Revenge is not a masterpiece. Shut up, Sean. But then after that, I started my Predator re-review series, and that's when me and Trev, the Predator and Alien reviews was the peak of me and Trev doing content together. Like Tremors was really good, but that was when me and Trev were literally just like perfect clockwork, like a well-oiled machine. Him and I just jumping back and forth for the Alien and Predator films. It was really nice. Yeah, that was 2021 was a damn good year. Shut up, Sean. You're distracting me. And 2021 was also the year my son was born. And when I took my brief hiatus because I was on paternity leave, I had other things to focus on, helping Meadow recover from her horrible C-section and raising my infant son. But then, me and Trev did, before I went on that, we did the ranking the Alien, Predator, Terminator, RoboCop, and Tremors movies in one big long list. That's still one of our best videos, I think. That's one of the best videos that me and Trev have done. And then Trev's tenure on my channel came to, admittedly, it was a solid end with us reviewing the first two Terminator films together. And then after that, I did T3 with Jackie Boy. And then I reviewed the first three George Romero Dead movies with Jeff Welch. At this point, Unigamer661 was gone. And his new channel, Bakersfield Self-Preservation, was created. And then we finished that off with top 10 favorite zombie films, also with Jeff. But then, funny, it's when I reviewed Jaws while I was on paternity leave, because at the time, that was the anniversary, because it was the 4th of July, I wanted, because I had wanted to review Jaws the previous year in 2020, because that was the 45th anniversary, but I had to work. So I decided, nah, just push it next year. Even though I was on paternity leave, I still did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 5 videos while I had 6 weeks of paternity leave. So then, like, I did kind of meander for the rest of 2021, admittedly, because at this point was when I had my first falling out with Trev. So I kind of was meandering for the rest of 2021, but I still did put out some solid videos, like my Stephen King marathon, my first one, reviewing Doctor Sleep and The Mist, and then doing the Mummy videos, ranking the Universal Mummy films with um Horror and Metal channel, which I've been trying to get him back on my channel ever since then, but he's just he's not able to really come back for much. Not to throw shade, he still does videos, but we just haven't, our schedules just haven't lined up like the way they did back then, unfortunately. But I still did put out some solid videos for the rest of 2021, and I think I ended the year pretty well, especially doing the 31 on 31, ranking the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween movies with Jeff. And then doing the 70s Godzilla movies was a nice, really nice way to end the year off on. But then going into 2022, that was not a good year for my channel. I'm gonna call 2022 my first real channel low. There were some highlights. My top 100 favorite films series was pretty entertaining and enjoyable. That was inspired by Jackie Boy talking about his top 30 favorite films on his 30th birthday. Then I had my brief return to Tremors. My review of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy with Ryan and Jackie Boy, that was a pretty big highlight. I reviewed my first anime with Shawnee Boy, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which that's also a solid video. But there's the 2022 definitely ended with a big dud. I tried to do zombie exploitation, and for like the last 2 months of 2022, I had this horrible forever cold. And like I tried doing another movie collection video, but I was blowing my nose constantly left and right. And obviously going into the beginning of the next year, oh god damn. Beginning of 2023, the cold came back. And I said in my community post when I tried to review Ultraman the Next, halfway through, I just had a huge allergy attack. No, it was a cold. I just caught another fucking cold. That was like the second one that I had caught in like 2 months. I was so fucking pissed after that video, because then it really got worse after the video was over. Oh, I was mad. I don't like it when videos get interrupted, and I don't like it when I have to shit can videos a half hour in. It just really pisses me off. But yeah, 2022 was not a great year. That's the first channel low in my opinion, because I just didn't really know what to do. Because if you'll also remember, in 2022, I tried reviewing the Star Wars movies. That series was crap, like total crap. It was very unfocused. I repeated myself a whole bunch. I tried getting guests for those movies, but nobody was taking the bait. It was frustrating. And then also in 2022, I very briefly tried starting up Super Ultra Binge, reviewing Ultraman shows, but that just is still stuck. And also in the comments, Yeah, Shawnee Boy saying happy 50th anniversary to Jaws. I think it was June 18th. I think either June 18th or June 20th is the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Well, I'll get to my rough period for 24. Believe me. Damn. But yeah, 2022, especially the ending, the second half of 2022. Yeah, that was rough. I'm actually considering deleting all of my zombie exploitation reviews. And also we had a couple deaths that rocked us for a loop. Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, passed away, so that knocked us all for a loop. And Jason David Frank also took his own life in 2022. So yeah, that 2022 is just not a good year. Not a great year. But going into 2023, I would call that my second channel peak. It started off a bit rough. There was the aforementioned bad Ultraman the Next video where I got sick halfway through, or I got sicker halfway through. And again, I just really did not have a focus through line for the first few months of 2023. And I've said before, my re-ranking the Halloween series video, I don't think it's bad. But obviously me and Shawnee Boy did a much better video. Sure, yeah, JDF, had he like sought out some mental health professionals, he probably would still be here exposing all the bullshit that goes on with Bat in the Sun, even more so. But Kevin, unfortunately, he died of cancer, so you couldn't. I mean, you could combat that, but yeah, JDF was really avoidable. So that one I think was a little bit more tragic, unfortunately. And then I tried re-reviewing the Paranormal Activity series, but that series was going nowhere. Nobody was watching that, and I was like, I had a very brief resurgence in interest in that. But then the first really solid video of 23 was me and Shawnee Boy's re-review of the original RoboCop. That was a lot of fun. I actually I rewatch that from time to time. It's still pretty entertaining. Me and Shawnee Boy had a good dynamic there. But then 2023 was really kicked in the ass due to my March of the Apes series and my return to Super Kaiju Binge. Because another thing that I think really hurt 2022 was I only did 2 episodes of Super Kaiju Binge. Mighty Joe Young 1949, which that also might be one of the best videos of 2022 because that was a pretty solid episode. And then the Black Scorpion, I should not have reviewed the Black Scorpion. Straight up, should not have reviewed it. But also did one thing that soured the ending of 2022. I wanted to end it with a bang, but my laptop that I had since 2017 went kaput because I accidentally spilled soda on it during a very animated review of iZombie. Oops. So that kind of put me out of commission for a while. But anyway, yeah, my return to Super Kaiju Binge by celebrating the 90th anniversary of King Kong by reviewing King Kong 05 and my 4-part March of the Apes series, which the only episode of that series that I'm pretty unhappy about is my review of Rampage. I just realized halfway through, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this movie, which is a shame. But then episode 40 of Super Kaiju Binge, reviewing Godzilla 2014 with Shawnee Boy. That began my first really solid, successful string of videos. Probably the most successful since me and Trevor Boy doing either Tremors or the Alien and Predator films. When me and Shawnee Boy did 2014 King of the Monsters, I did Godzilla vs. Kong. I had a little bit of a stumble with my Starship Troopers and my Let's Read video. And this was also when me and Victoria were talking. So her and I did the 1998 Godzilla 25th anniversary review. And then I finished up the Gamera series because of the where is it? What the hell? Oh, here it is. Ugh. God damn. Because of this, one of the greatest gifts that anybody has ever gotten me. I still remember the day I got this. I literally dropped it on my toe. Damn. Yeah, I'll be forever grateful for Victoria giving me this. Forever grateful. Anyway, yeah, starting with 2014 and ending pretty much with our Shin Godzilla video. I think that is like there's a couple bumps here and there. The Starship Troopers and Let's Read Darth Bane video and Terminator 3, Candyman 2021, Transformers, and that was about it. Aside from those, like those videos aren't bad, but they kind of stuck out like sore thumbs. It was also during that time I began Super Cinema Rank, which I do want to get more episodes out in the coming future. I actually have a nice return to that I have in mind that I think I want to throw out pretty soon. Yeah, 2023 I would say was probably my favorite peak aside from Tremors and Alien and Predator. My favorite peak for my channel so far, but unfortunately 2023 ended with the fallout that I had with Victoria, which led to me almost taking my own life in July of last year. And admittedly, at the beginning of 2024, I was blazing through the Heisei Godzilla series kind of as a way to bury my sorrow and misery, like trying to focus on stuff that I like as a way to try to cope with my anguish and hurt, but it wasn't working, unfortunately. And 2024, I would also say, kind of was a like content wise, it wasn't bad because I think for 2024, I was kind of embracing a quality over quantity mindset because there were actually some pretty solid videos. Like all of my, except for maybe Space Godzilla, I think that was a little bit lackluster. My reviews of the Heisei Godzilla series are all pretty entertaining, even though at the time, actually, I get canker sores a lot. And those ones in particular, I had a really bad one on the inside of my cheek right here. So if you hear me talk, especially in the Space Godzilla and Destroya videos, I kind of had a bit of a lisp or like I don't know, it kind of hurts to talk, kind of like that. That's why. The ranking the DC Extended Universe video with Shawnee Boy was awesome. That's one of my like top 10 favorite videos I've ever done. followed by top 10 favorite Stephen King movies with Shawnee Boy, which also was a pretty fun experience. And then I did my movie collection video series, which surprisingly has a lot of views. There's a few duds, like the ranking the Star Wars franchise with Jackie Boy. Not to talk shit about Jackie Boy, but I'm not happy with how that video turned out because Jackie Boy interrupted me a lot. Again, not talking shit. Love you very much, Jackie Boy. But you interrupted me way too many times. So that's why that video is kind of hard to watch for me nowadays. But then kind of after that, I was just the Jurassic Park trilogy reviews are all fairly entertaining. But for a while after that, it was because of my fallout with Vic and some issues I was having with Meadow and all the shit that I was going through in 2024. My desire to do videos was severely diminished. It was kind of like another repeat of 2019. And it's like I've said before, it seems like my life is drastically uprooted every 4 to 5 years, which is really annoying. I did end 2024 on a fairly big note, though. Me and Shawnee Boy reviewed Logan, which that was a solid review. Maybe it was a little too long, but yeah, I like that. I like that video. And then the top 15 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies video with Shawnee Boy was also pretty entertaining. Um, I think that might be my favorite speech that I've written for a video so far. And then I ended like actual content. Well, not really actual, but like reviews or movie related stuff. I ended the year pretty good with my top 50 favorite horror films video, which was a lot of fun to put together. And I'm not really going to talk about 2025, but I just will say like it definitely the last like since 2020, it's been pretty up and down drastically every other year, it seems. But I'm not going to say again, this year has been bad, although it's been kind of rough since I moved here, but I've been moving. Can't really blame me. But the videos I did at my temporary location, like my top 20 favorite animated movies video, was pretty fun. My top 20 favorite dinosaurs video was decent. And my 2 Jurassic World reviews with Jackie Boy were also pretty fun. And talk about the Harry Potter movies with Shawnee Boy was also pretty entertaining. So there's that. And hopefully I can get some more entertaining content out to you guys for the rest of the year. I know things have been very quiet and very sporadic for the last few months. It's been annoying. Like I think of all people, I'm the one who's been the most annoyed. I do want to get more videos out, but stuff's just been getting in the way. But I think things are finally starting to calm down. I think. So I do have more videos planned. But before I get to that, that's been my journey as a YouTuber. That's my retrospective of the last 10 years of doing content on this platform. There have been a lot of fun videos done here and there. I've met a lot of people, and some people have left since then that have hurt me. I've talked about some not very flattering things that have happened to me. Some of it was my fault, fully admit. Some of it was my fault. And some of it was just very unfortunate. But, again, like I've said, sometimes you just need to talk about some uncomfortable things in order to get to more comfortable things. So with that being said, it's been a fun 10 years. Overall, I do think for the most part, it has been enjoyable. I still have friends that I still talk to this day, namely Jackie Boy and Shawnee Boy. I still talk to Horror and Metal. He and I just haven't done videos since 2021. And I have made a couple new friends, namely my friend Charlene, who saved my life last year. And that's about it. About all I have to say. It's been tumultuous, definitely, but it's definitely never been boring. So to end this video, yeah, it has been a fun 10 years, and I would like to do another 10 years, and another 10 years, and another 10 years. I have no desire to quit doing YouTube, even if it is just a hobby, even if I get one video a week. That's better than nothing. If I get 2 videos a week, that'll be even better. So some plans for the rest of the year. I want to try to get out some more Ultraman content. I want to start up this new series that I talked about earlier. I want to get more videos with Shawnee Boy, more videos with Jackie Boy. Maybe I can try to get Lord Hellhound back on this channel. I want to also get some Godzilla videos out pretty soon, hopefully. And overall, that's what I am. Kind of more of the same, but I have had time to just sit back and take a break and relax and make some plans for the future. Since my uploading schedule has been so sporadic. But you know what? Being an adult's hard. But thank you all to those who have stuck with me since 2015. And thank you all to those who have stuck with me definitely since 2020, like Shawnee Boy, Jackie Boy, Ryan Boy, Pierce. And like I said, it has been a fun 10 years, and I'd like to make the next 10 years even more fun. So stay tuned for all the upcoming future content. And, post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share it there with your friends. Go out, watch some movies. Go out and enjoy the things that inspire you to do the things you do every day. Go out and enjoy life. Hang out with your friends. Hang out with your family. Stay out of trouble. Happy 50th anniversary to Jaws. Happy 10-year anniversary to me doing YouTube. And have a happy 4th of July, because that's coming up in the next couple weeks. And I will see you guys. Oh, by the way, thank you to Pierce and Shawnee Boy down in the comments. And thank you to Shawnee Boy, too, for being a friend to me. He also was another guy who helped me out a good chunk of last year. The fuck? And I will see you guys in the next video.